people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer Diamond and I live a whole food, plant exclusive, SOFAs free, gluten-free lifestyle for health and well-being. And today I'm getting ready to go to a potluck and I thought I would bring you along and we can make some potato pizzas. So the first thing I need to do is prepare the potatoes. And this is a recipe that was inspired by the medical medium recipe. Let's see, it's in his Cleanse to Heal book. Here it is, right here. And I will link it in the description in case you want to take a look at it. He's got an amazing amount of recipes that I'm really enjoying. And these are the mini potato cake pizzas on page 424. And I am going to double the recipe. And so it originally talks about, it just says 2 pounds of potatoes, but we're gonna double it. And so I've made this before, and the first time I made it, I actually used the Yukon Gold potatoes, which were really nice. And the reason that I really liked them is because the skin is thin and it's, you know, a neutral color, and I keep the skin on. But I actually had some of these smaller potatoes in a bulk bag that I got from Costco, and these are the creamer potatoes. And so for the potluck, I thought I would use these. They're the little tiny ones, and they have 2 different colors, but the skin is thin. And so I'm gonna go ahead and blend them together. So I'm putting them in my salad spinner because this is how I wanna wash them. And then we're gonna get them going in the Instant Pot. So let me just add some water. Okay, so while these drain for a minute, I just wanna tell you, I have the 6-quart Instant Pot. And if you have an 8-quart, this will work fine. I just happen to have the 6-quart. And this is the inner basket that I use. I ordered this separately. I'll link the description for the basket if it's still available. And it's not the one that comes with it, but I just really like this for things like potatoes, especially when they're small. So the trivet that it comes with, you know, tends to, it doesn't have sides, so it can roll over when you're trying to get it out. At any rate, we're gonna go ahead and put all the potatoes, if I can fit them all, right in the basket. When I made these using the Yukon Golds, I cut them up into smaller pieces because ultimately we're gonna smash this together. And so you can just put these in whole like this, or we could take a few minutes and just cut them in half. So I think I will cut them in half, and mostly because I think once they're cooked, they might be easier to smash, but truthfully, any way you do it will work out just fine. So. Depending on the size of your potato will pretty much depend on the amount of time that you want to use if you're using the Instant Pot. Of course, if you're just using the stove, then you can just poke it with a fork and just make sure that the potatoes are soft. So let me go ahead and before I put this in here, you're always going to want to make sure that your insert has water in the bottom of it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 cups of water for the bottom. 1 cup to 2 cups is what's recommended, and I'm going to go for 2 cups since we have this entire thing full, so I'll be right back. Okay, and this particular water has been filtered through my Berkey water filtration system, and I like to use that. So all I do is plop this in, and it's backwards for me to show you, so set it at 11 o'clock, turn it, make sure the venting is up on sealing. And then we're gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna do 10 minutes on, and then I'm gonna let it natural release for maybe another 7 or so minutes, all right? So while that's doing that, I'm just gonna set it over here aside. We can go ahead and start prepping the sauce and the toppings. So the sauce is, we're gonna get some tomato paste, which I happen to have right here. This tomato paste I love. It's from a company called Bio Nature, and it's 100% organic tomato paste. It has no salt, and I love that it comes in a glass jar. So I don't have to worry about the PBA or anything that might be inside of a can, you know, the toxins or anything that comes out. So this is great, and then I can reuse the jar if I want. So we are gonna be getting some of that, and then we're also gonna be getting some spices. So let me grab those. Okay, so we've got oregano and thyme, and we're just gonna mix that in with the tomato paste. The tomato paste looks like a 1/4 cup. And so, gosh, this is 7 ounces. So let me measure that out because I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, bummer. All right, so here is a 1/4 cup, and I'm gonna actually show that that's how much the recipe takes, but I'm doubling the recipe. Which, look at that. It isn't the whole jar, but it's more than half. It's almost 2/3, so that'll give me a better indicator for next time. Or I could just do the whole jar and have extra sauce for other things if you didn't want to save this little bit here. What I would do is I would either use it up on other things, or I would take it out and freeze it into smaller container, like, you know, like a little tablespoon or so, like an ice cube tray, and then I would know how many tablespoons or so for future, and it wouldn't go bad because then I would just freeze it. But here we are, and so now I'm gonna go ahead and grab the measuring spoons, and we want to double it. So that's gonna be a teaspoon of oregano, which I'm just pouring right in there. And let's see, and a teaspoon of thyme. I like to mix up my thyme a little bit in the mortar and pestle. I also like to do that with rosemary. I just feel like the flavors are so wonderful, but I don't like sometimes when there are these little, you know, these kind of sticks or little, they're not little, they're bigger pieces, and that's why I'm just gonna give this a quick little thing. Someday I might buy myself a coffee grinder and do this through there, but as of yet, I don't own one. I've never been a coffee drinker. Now, my husband drinks coffee, but he either uses this press or he uses already pre-ground coffee, so we don't have one of those. How do you grind up your spices? You know, do you even grind them? Does it matter to you? So I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and let me know how you grind up your spices. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when I go on live or post new videos. And hit the like button so that I can help spread the word to others who are learning or interested in how I make whole food plant-based lifestyle work for me. So All right, so this is what that looks like. That looks pretty good to me. It isn't perfectly smooth, but it's much more ground. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in there and mix it up. Voila, sauce is ready. I mean, how much easier could that be? Now, let's say you didn't have tomato paste and you didn't have these seasonings. Could you use tomato sauce? I mean, you can. You can use anything that, you know, would be spreadable or would hold. I would just be careful, you know, that for me, I wouldn't do anything that had salt, oil, or sugar in it. So if that's something that you're concerned about and you want to use the sauce, just make sure to check the ingredients, not just the front of the label, because sometimes it's misleading. But otherwise, here we go. We are all set. So I'm going to set this aside. And we have our sauce. What I like to do is not just use raw toppings. I actually prefer to cut up the toppings and then saute them in a hot pan, usually a dry saute, or if it sticks, I'll use a wet saute, which is just a little bit of water or vegetable broth instead of any oil. And that way it's already cooked down, even if it isn't all the way cooked. And then when I add it to the pizzas and put them in the oven, it just helps keep them moist, and I just find the finish and the texture and the flavor to be so much better than if I just put them directly in. Sometimes they might burn a little and they're still crunchy, so that's what we're gonna do. Now, this is the fun part. Of course, the recipe tells us, you know, what they recommend for toppings, but you can use any toppings that you like. So today I'm gonna go ahead and use a few different fun things. All right, I've got the mystery bag and I've got some onion, tomato, and zucchini. And so let's start out with, I'm gonna just cut up some of the zucchini. I had used this for another recipe, and so it just gonna take that little end off. This has already been washed and cleaned, and so I'm gonna slice it down and then roll it and then slice it again so that I have more of like a quarter, and then slice it down. Now the slices I'm doing are about, what do you think? ½ inch? And I'm doing them a little on the thicker side because I want them to hold. Zucchini is so full of moisture and water, and it can become mushy. And I find that if I make it a little bit thicker, it holds better because I'm gonna be cooking it down and not putting it directly on the pizza. Now, if you didn't wanna do this step, you can put it directly on the pizza. It's just what works for me. And in that case, I would make them sliced thinner. All right, so let's set that aside. Pretty. And then I've got some little tomatoes here, and I'm just gonna cut up a few of them. You can slice them up and down. I think what I'm gonna do is slice them across into like little pennies, and just gonna do a few of those. You could do cherry tomatoes. I think these are kind of more like a grape tomato. But you could do any tomatoes. You don't have the little tomatoes, you just have a big tomato, a Roma, or any other kind of tomato, heirloom, or I think they're called beefsteak. It doesn't matter, just cut it up into small pieces and you're good to go. If you don't like tomato pieces, don't use tomatoes pieces. So, here's my favorite scraper. I just love this thing. Okay, so we've got the tomatoes, we've got the zucchini, and now I'm gonna go ahead and slice up some of the onion. Some people use the paper and the ends for, and even for any of the vegetables. For broth, I do that too in my freezer. but some people don't like to hold on to the paper because they think that it makes the broth bitter. I've never experienced that. I do all the papers, including with garlic. I'm just gonna cut a little bit of the end here. And I guess I could save some of this broth. And then I'm gonna just gently take the paper off. And I understand that if you keep the paper, if you take off the paper as close to the white as possible, or to the onion, instead of taking an entire layer of onion, that there is some kind of extra nutrients that are in between the paper and the onion. So as long as it looks good and not, you know, like papery, sometimes it does, I'll keep it and try to get as close to the onion and paper as possible. And I've just got this last little bit here. And it might not want to come off right now. Ah, there we go. Okay, so this liquid that comes out of an onion is what is the cause for making people cry when they do onions, and I tend to be like that. So I just rinsed it off, and then I'm gonna be making some slices down the onion, and I go about halfway, and then I turn it. I do not go all the way through, because if I go all the way through, it will fall apart, and I want it to be held together still. So, and then I go back on the outside, and I work my way in to the middle. And here's like how far I'm going down, so you could see. And I don't know if you could see on this camera, but okay, so now I have the slice, 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 and now I'm gonna go this way, and I'm gonna do the same thing again. And I didn't really do a good job on this first one, so I'm gonna go back and do that one, and then turn it. And of course, once you have the slices in, it gets a little bit harder, but it can be done. And if some of it falls out, no big deal. And then I lay it on its side and slice it down. And that is how I get diced onion. Now, if you wanted it smaller than this, then you would have to make your slices going down closer to each other. But for me, this looks great. Looks great, and I think I will save this for another use. And there we have. So we have the onions, we have zucchini, and we have some tomatoes. And you know, I just thought about it. I think I'm gonna add some red bell pepper that I got at the farmer's market. Let me grab a couple of those, and then don't forget, we have something in this bag. Okay, so these were grown, and I got a big bag of them, and I still have a few. I'm just gonna rinse them off and slice them up as well. I think that would also add to a lot of flavor to the pizzas. And so I'm just gonna cut them straight down through. And this one also. And then I like to push it in, because then I don't waste any of the edges that are edible and delicious. And you can clean up any of the seeds that are in there. You can even rinse it again if you want. But I find that this is a nice way not to lose any of the product. I'm gonna stack them, and I'm gonna just make some very thin slices. Oh, I'm so pleased that we did that. Doesn't that look nice? Okay, so that brings us to what's in the bag. This is also something that I got at the farmer's market, and I have used a lot of, but I still have more. And that is mushrooms. And this is half of one mushroom that I bought. And this is the lion's mane. And I swear, doesn't it look like cotton candy or some kind of marshmallow? It's really interesting and just kind of bouncy. But they're delicious. So I'm gonna slice up some of this. I mean, it's not really slicing. It's almost like I have to push down on it. It's really cool. Okay, so that's that. And then I think what I'm gonna do is also, well, let me just let you look at this for a minute. Isn't that cool? Look at how interesting that is. Can you see it almost looks like some kind of sea, something that you would get in the sea. Anyways, I always find this stuff fascinating. All right, so these were foraged locally and not by me, but I bought them at the farmer's market, and I really do enjoy trying new kinds of mushrooms. These I've had before, both purchased in the store and at the farmer's market. And I'm just making little strips right now. And then I'm gonna cut the strips down and they'll be ready to saute. Okay. So there we go. And I think I'll just make them a little bit like that. So they're not too tiny like the onions. And there we go. Look at that. Those are beautiful. Now, I also got some other mushrooms, and gosh, I forgot how to pronounce these. They are like P-I-O, I think we're gonna check. Pio Pino. So, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we'll have the spelling here somewhere, and you can let me know in the comments if I'm saying it wrong or if you've ever tried it. And I was told in our area that these are not commonly foraged. They're kind of a specialty, and that they take double the time of some of the other mushrooms that they had, the lion's mane, but they also sell oyster mushrooms and trumpet mushrooms. But these are pretty fantastic. So I'm gonna also cut up maybe one or two of these, and I'll save these. Look at that, isn't that cool? Have you tried mushrooms, unusual mushrooms before? Shiitake, I mean, there are other things besides just the button. Or cremini, or portobello. Those are the most common that I see. And I'm just gonna cut these up a little bit. I was told that these are really good. This particular brand is, or this particular kind is much, is really good in soups or stews. And that the stem is kind of tough. So I'm not gonna put this part in our pizza, but I am gonna keep it still because I can use it in an upcoming soup. And so I'm just gonna cut this up a little bit. All right, so we're ready for our saute. I'm gonna go ahead and use a stainless steel pan that I have. This particular brand is All Clad. I have green pans, I have all different kinds, but for this I'm just gonna go ahead and heat the pan up, which will take just a minute, and we'll be right there. So this feels pretty warm. I have it medium high, but I'm not gonna keep it medium high. I only did that to bring the pan to, you know, up a little bit. And if you're not sure, how could you check? Well, I just kind of do this and I can feel the heat. You don't want to touch it, but what you could do is take a little bit of water with your clean hands. That is a hot pan. If you didn't hear that, that definitely did a sizzle. Should we do that again? Oh, it's already gone. I was going to show you. All right, so I'm going to turn the heat down now because I'm not trying to burn everything. And I'm going to put the tomatoes in last, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the onion and the bell pepper. And let those get started for a few minutes before we add the other ingredients. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with the onion first, then the bell pepper. Okay. I'm gonna just use my little scooper. And I got a zucchini in there. Could I have left it in there? I could have. You know, don't get hooked up or caught up in, you know, being a perfectionist. This is supposed to be fun and taste delicious, and it's okay if it's not exactly how it was written in a recipe or how your friend or your mother or anybody told you. You know, you can change it up a little bit and it'll all taste delicious in the end. All right, so we're gonna let that go for a minute. I'm gonna use my little happy face spatula that I got when I was in Japan. I just love him, isn't he cute? So I'm just gonna bring this over here so you can see. It's already starting to do a little bit of browning because the pan was so hot. And then hopefully you can see that. I mean, we barely got started here. It's not sticking. Everything is great. So let's put that back on here and let the magic happen. And next we're going to get the red bell peppers going. So I'm just collecting those. So take a look at that, you know, no oil. And you can continue if you want to get it to whatever consistency you want. But I'm going to be adding other things. So I'm going to stop now and add the red bell pepper. And from there, I think I'll do the zucchini and the mushrooms together. But I'll give the red bell pepper a couple of minutes. The zucchini and the mushrooms have the water, so anything that might potentially be sticking, that might take it right up, and I won't even have to add any water. So this is great. It's going wonderfully. I can't wait to show you the finished product. Another trick that I've learned about dry or wet saute is that if it looks like it's really getting kind of dry or brown, the pan more than the vegetable, and you didn't really want to add water, but you're using ingredients like zucchini and mushrooms that have water in it, once you put them in, I lower the heat and I might put a lid on, and it will help pull that water. It will kind of make like a steam within the pan, and then I can take that off and it just kind of gets it going. So there's little things you can do, but oil, in my opinion, is nothing that's going to benefit me, not in my health, not in my endothelial cells going to my heart, and definitely it's not worth the calories that are in them. It doesn't really help us. And I mean, who has ever said, I think I want to drink a shot of olive oil or any oil? Yikes. So it doesn't even offer flavor alone, and I'd rather taste the flavor of the food. So let me go check on that. You can see it's starting to soften up, looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and add the zucchini to it. Whoa. If I stop throwing it. Okay, got the zucchini in there. It's hard to do one-handed, so I'm going to set it down, but I just wanted you to see. And last but certainly not least are two beautiful different types of mushrooms. Wow. And then I'm going to top it with the tomatoes when it needs like one more minute. And I'll show you how this is coming along. Really pretty. Still has a little bit more cooking time. All right, so that is what I'm gonna be topping my potato pizzas with. And I'll just cover it for now. I'm gonna turn the fire off and just kind of let it sit while we handle the potatoes. And then it's gonna be so tasty. Smells great. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and release this. You want to stay clear of that. That is hot steam. You can get a facial or something if you want, but you can also get burned, so you need to be careful. And while I'm letting that go, I'm going to be mashing the potatoes in here, so I'm going to grab a masher. The steam is off. I'm going to go ahead and twist it. There we go. Look at that. I'm going to hang it here. And we went to 16 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it because I like things unplugged when I'm not using them. And what's so great again about this, it is hot, is that this handle has a rubber piece on it. You can use a mitt or a glove if you want, but this also helps it. Boy, and these are heavy. So I'm just going to set it down here and let's give it a second to cool off. So the instructions talk about letting it cool. You could technically do this the night before and have them all cooled and ready to be pressed. But I'm going to go ahead and just try to dump them in. And remember, this is doubled. The recipe is doubled. So I'm going to try to cool them off, but then I think I'm going to scoop half of it back in here just so I have more room to kind of prepare and smash everything. And I just want to make sure that this is cooked the way that oh yeah, it looks nice and soft. Okay, so I might even just, should we go ahead and taste it? Sure, why not? Have a bite. And this thing's already cool. So I'm gonna go ahead. Maybe what I'll do is just cut it in half. Put this piece back in there and just looks pretty good. I mean, it's soft and pliable. Look at that. That was perfectly cooked. Yum. Okay. Wow, that's incredible. I'm so excited to eat these. These are going to be great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start smashing these. And yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and pour half of these back just to get started and add it in a little more slowly, just because of the size of the bowl and the amount of potatoes. They are still hot, but they don't seem to bother me too much. A little bit. Whoa, run away. All right, so let's start with this. And this is it. Just smash. Smash, smash, smash. So we are going to use some oregano and use I'm going to go for 2 teaspoons because, like I said before, I'm doubling it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with garlic powder and onion powder. And these measurements don't have to be exact if you ask me. I mean, I love so much of the garlic and onion flavor that it's good for me. Okay. And now I'm just gonna incorporate the seasonings into the potato. I think I might use a couple different tools. Maybe I'll start with this spatula and just do your best. You can even use your hands if you got really into it. Just make sure it's not too hot. Yeah, the spatula is not gonna work that well for me. So let's go with the fork. However you do it is the right way. Just mix it all up really good. I think I found my tool of choice. This big spoon seems to be doing the trick. I liked the idea of using a fork because, you know, the seasonings and spices can get through there, but it's really too small for this size of this amount. So you could prep all of this the day before or anytime, even a couple days before. You could have the potatoes seasoned, cooked, smashed, ready to go, sitting in the refrigerator. I would bring them to room temperature, maybe take them out of the refrigerator a little while, maybe even an hour or so before you're gonna cook it if you do that, just so that it doesn't take as long for it to get, you know, going in the oven. But you can do everything that we just did and have it just now kind of ready to go for a day or two whenever you are ready. And then all you'd have to do is assemble and stick it in the oven. This seems pretty good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat our oven. And I think, let me check, they're wanting 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius. I've got my scooper here. This is a melon scooper. And what I did last time was I did like 1.5 scoops. You know, this isn't a real clear scoop, so I just did that with maybe a little more. And I just started to shape it into a kind of a little pizza base. And, you know, this seems a little low in terms of quantity, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more. I'm just gonna base it like this. And just decide, you know, what size you want. I think now that I lay it down, it's gonna take me a time or two to decide what size I want these pizzas. And let's see. So this is about my hand, size of my hand. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and shape them a little bit more. You could make an edging if you want. You know, if you kind of wanted to push down more in the center and let it kind of spring out, you could do that. Or you could just make them flat all the way around. There you go. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill the tray and put it in the oven. And we're gonna let these cook and brown up. They don't need to be cooked because they're already pre-cooked, but they're gonna brown up. And then once we're almost certain that they're ready, then we're gonna add the sauce and the toppings and put it back in. And after that, it's ready to go. All right, so here we go. We've got our first tray. I just rinse my hands and we're gonna, I was able to get 5 across in 3 rows, so we have 15. And let's see, look at that. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. The oven says it's ready. And I'm gonna put it for 20 minutes. Actually, yeah, 20 minutes. All right, we'll be back. Ooh, these look really good. Now, the thing with these is you can see, let me just move this out of the way, that there are some, you know, you can see the brown skin, whereas the ones that I have on my Instagram that I did before, I didn't use the red skin, I mean, not brown. And so, you know, that's a difference. And also I see a couple little pieces where it didn't get mashed pretty well, but gosh, this looked great. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting the toppings on, and then we're gonna put it back in the oven for just a short period of time and then they're ready. So I'm gonna set them over here because it's warm, hot. Yeah. Oh, I think this will work. Pretty sure this will work. Okay, so here we go. And I'm just putting a little dollop on each one first. Now this is tomato paste versus the tomato sauce. So maybe if this had a little sauce added to it or something to make it, you know, not as thick, that would have it go further also. But we're gonna try this. And yeah, I have plenty, so. Okay, so let me put this down and see if that's enough. And then I'm literally just gonna take the back of the spoon and spread it around like the base of a pizza. Looks good. And sometimes if I find that one's a little thicker than another spot, then, you know, I might pick up a little bit and kind of move it over. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's all very forgiving. All right, and now I'm just gonna add the toppings and just put it back in the oven for a very short period of time. Let me grab that. I think what I'll do, this isn't hot anymore, but I still wanna make sure that I'm not putting it directly on my countertop. So I'm just gonna do that. And I am just gonna try to put this a little bit goes a long way. And so, you know, just try to get a little bit of everything on each one, and maybe even 2 zucchinis, you know, just kind of play with it and see, kind of like 2 zucchinis. And so now that it's cooked and everything, I could have gone even thinner with the zucchini. Some of them are a little thicker because I was afraid that it might kind of dissolve, but it's all preference. Whatever you think. Yum, this looks so good. This guy needs a red guy on him. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the oven and let's see what the recipe calls for. I'm just gonna put it in for maybe 10 minutes, but let me see what it says. It says brown at 15 to 20 minutes or until brown and firm. Well, I think they're coming along in the pre-cooking part. I'm gonna cut that time in half and see how it does. And so let me put this in. Okay, so this is actually a combination of herbs, but I have basil in here, so I just want to open this up. And here is the basil. Doesn't that look pretty? And I have enough for tomorrow's, or for Sundays as well, for the next potluck. So let me see how many I can get out of here. All right, and then literally, I'm gonna take 1 leaf per pizza. Now, this one is really big, so I might slice that one in half. And so this, let's see, so this one I'm gonna cut, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm gonna cut these, let's say 7, 8, or 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So let me just take 1 more leaf and I think we'll be ready. Oh, that's not my towel. Okay, so let me cut those last 3. You can see. Now I could cut it straight down. Yeah, cutting it straight down looks nice. But if it turned out like, oh, it's really too big, then I would cut it, you know, crossways, but I'll wait and see. I'm gonna let these sit out and dry, and I will be back when everything is done cooking in the oven. See you soon. Wow. Here we go. What do you think? Pretty. Can you see that okay? Look at that. That is beautiful. All right, so I'm going to scooch it back here. It's hot, hot, hot. And I'm just thinking if I should try to move them or not. I think I'm not going to move them. I'm going to let them cool. But just because I'm excited to show you, this is how I will serve them. I'll bring the little pieces of basil and I will top it and show you how that looks. And if everybody gets a piece of basil, I mean, look at that. Isn't that pretty? Now, if you're not going to serve it right this second, which I'm not, I'm wondering if the basil will wilt. And so I'm just showing, I'll just place a couple of them on here just so you can get an idea. But I think I'll take them off and place them on when I'm ready to serve it. But so, you know, there's two that we cut in half. And, you know, or we could, you know, this one's a little big, so I might do it on like a larger one. And I'm trying to put it a little bit off to the side so you can still see all the toppings and the different colors, which I think makes the presentation very beautiful. And even with some of these little ones, like I have some little ones, you know, I might just take two little pieces on one of these smaller ones. And look, it's plenty. It's plenty. So there we have it. We did it. I hope you guys enjoyed this with me. And, you know, give it a try. They're delicious. I will link the book below. And, you know, just don't be afraid to try new things.